And we are live. Hello everyone, and welcome to another Anthem live stream. My name is Ben Irving. I'm one of the lead producers for Anthem. And joining me today, we have a very special guest, Darrin McPherson. Darrin, would you like to introduce yourself to our amazing fans?
Yeah, hi fans. I'm the producer for gameplay, here to talk about some really cool things.
That's right. So, to that point, today's stream topic is all about loot, gear, and progression. How does progression work? How does loot work? What are rarities? How do the stats work? Can I make builds and loadouts? The Forge is split into two core sections. We have loadouts and appearances. We often call that customization and personalization. So personalization is about how you look, your appearance, and customization, or the loadouts, as you see in the UI here, is about your power. So as we dive into this, Darrin, can you just talk a little bit about what are the kind of UI elements we see here, and then after that, just the summary of progression?
So each Javelin has 5 hard points or equipable slots that you're going to have. Those are broken up into different types. So you've got here, so you see weapons, the Colossus-specific heavy assault launcher. The Ranger has a different one. The Storm has a different one. So they have different names. Ordnance launcher is his rear-mounted artillery. Components and support gear.
Right, and so in the past we've talked about, there are 3 gear pieces. So here it's kind of heavy assault launcher, ordnance launcher, support gear. They would be the 3 for the Colossus. Right. You have 2 weapons. When we drill into the weapons, you'll see, and then components, which we haven't talked about yet, and we'll save that for a moment. We'll get there in a second. So that's the construct for how you can equip things and do things with your character.
Just like a normal RPG, you have levels. Your pilot, in this case, it's not an EXO level, it's a pilot level.
Right.
So as you progress in your pilot, you unlock certain things. Like for instance, if I want a second weapon, I get that at 4. So I start with a single one, etc. These slots are unlocked, some of them relatively early in the game, and then as you play the game, you'll loot items.
Yep.
Those items have levels on them.
Okay.
Those items also have rarities. So if you're familiar with other RPGs, there's generally common, and so we have common, we have uncommon, we have rare, and then we have epic, and then we have a couple that we'll talk about later. That make up basically our 6 rarity types.
So we'll start pretty simply with an uncommon item. So here we have the firewall mortar.
So we have our stat block. This, as it says, is a firewall mortar, so it does fire damage. You can see here the damage is fire. Okay. Yeah, it lays a wall down. Okay. You can see that it's recharge time and fire status. So fire status is sort of a new stat for games like this, which is how quickly do you light someone on fire in this case, or if it were ice status, how quickly do you freeze them, etc.
Okay, so this is a good little segue. So that's important to our combo system.
Yes.
So the idea here is that you would apply a status effect. Once you apply enough of it on a certain creature, it's now primed, and then you could get a gear piece that's a detonator and use that to do a combo.
Yeah. So we have things that apply an effect, and then things that will then create combos when that effect is there.
So this one puts effects on. Is there a way to tell that here?
Yeah, so if you look to the left of Firewall Mortar, the name, there's a little symbol there that happens to look like a flame, but that is our universal icon for this thing will add a
status effects. Right. Okay, cool.
And some things will build a lot slower than others. So while most of the things that apply an element of ice or whatever will build up, some of them would take a long time to build up.
Oh. Every stream, Ben forgets the caveats. This is still a game we're working on. It's not finished. And in this build, we have a bunch of bugs. And so one of the bugs we have here is all of the numbers for this next part are all zeros. Obviously, in the real game, they won't be zeros. In fact, most of the numbers here are a work in progress or have bugs to them. So please don't read into any of the numbers here, the damage numbers, the fire
balance
status
still
numbers,
continues,
the percentages. There is a thing here that says 0% pickup radius. What is that?
So that's an inscription. Okay. So each item that you get above common rarity, so uncommon and above, will have a number of inscriptions on them. These are stats that will have a random range of values. So this could hypothetically be 5 to 10%.
Right.
You get this item and you get a 7% bonus. Okay, cool, that's good. There's over 100 actual different inscriptions you can get on an item. broken up into a few pools for us to organize and balance. So on some of them, you're going to get extra damage stats. On some of them, you're going to get secondary utility, things like that.
That would mean every time you get a firewall modder, it does the firewall.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It does damage. It applies status effect. But if you get uncommon or higher, you get a random roll. And those things would be different every time. So the core functionality is the same, but all the bonuses are different.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yep. The primary means of gaining gear, weapons, components is randomly through killing creatures or defeating objectives, etc.
Yep.
So you can eventually get some of the ability to get some recipes to craft some of these things. Crafting is a good supplement to not. I didn't get the assault rifle I wanted, but maybe I got the recipe, then I can then craft that.
Yep.
Based on your level, you will get more high chance for you to get a better rarity. So if I'm level 5, it's really hard for me to get an epic piece. So feasibly could happen, but but as I get closer to 20, that will start happening more frequently.
Yeah, and then if you play harder difficulties, harder content, your chance of getting higher rarities will increase.
Right.
And again, if you end up in a situation where you don't get the things you're like, oh, I really want an assault rifle, and an assault rifle never drops, then the thing you could do is, to your point, supplement with crafting. So you could find a challenge that rewards an assault rifle blueprint, which is our recipes, and then get the materials and craft that if you really just wanted to have an assault rifle and you were getting unlucky for some reason and not getting your hands on one. We're going to look at the heavy assault launcher now.
Yep. So we have our flamethrower. So again, fire damage. This builds up fire status. You see our inscriptions here. I have Javelin heat damage, which affects all the heat or fire damage that I would do as a player. So that's a really good roll to have on this item. And then I get extra shotgun ammo.
Right. Here we have 2 inscriptions, and before we had 1.
Right.
How does that?
Yeah. So from common to uncommon, from uncommon to rare, you get an additional inscription, and that number grows up to 4. Well, up to 4.
We'll get
caveating
there.
later. Rarities.
And all 4 would be random rolls from this giant list
from different pools. So as you get an item, you get a weapon at level 20, it'll roll from a primary damage pool. So that primary damage pool is what is going to increase your damage of some kind, as opposed to sometimes I get something that isn't maybe as exciting like pickup radius, but it's still helpful, as opposed to I got a really good one and I got
So like flight time extensions, would that be in that pool?
And depending on your build, that's really flight time extension. We'll see a little later. Is super valuable.
Or you might decide you want to do speed runs, so having a huge pickup radius is great because you can go through and pick things up.
Let me tell you, playing as a storm with big pickup radius is huge.
Oh, good point. Good point.
I wanted to talk about this one. So this is a common. This is the lowest rarity, and here on the side of the railgun on the left side, you see the combo icon. So each one of these,
right? Oh, the detonator. Sorry,
it's the detonator. Yeah. So each one of the things that does that says this detonates a explosive combo.
So if we had used our other piece to put a creature in fire status,
and then I use
you could use this for a combo effect.
Right.
And then I don't think we should digress here, but then each of the suits have a different effect when they combo.
Yep, the Colossus here has explosive combo, so he does damage to the primary target that has been primed, and then an AoE around it.
Yep.
Right. The Ranger does a high impact single target damage, enormous amounts of damage. The Storm, so the guy's frozen and he hits him. He not only does damage to that guy, but he chains the ice
the frozen
to other
effect.
people.
Yep.
And the Interceptor is my favorite. You hit the prime target with one of your combos, and now you are surrounded by an aura of that element. So then I drag that around and freeze or apply acid.
You can
to
apply that
else.
aura where you move.
Right.
Yeah. Next, let's take a look at some epic stuff.
So we'll dive into the weapons really quick, which have a few different effects. So here's our grenade launcher. Heavy weapons can only be used by the Colossus.
Right.
The grenade launcher and the autocannon, big, massive.
Only for the Colossus.
Only for the Colossus. Here's a marksman. Again, you can be used by anybody. So you can see its damage, its optimal range. That's where you're going to do the most damage. If it's farther than that, it will be damage will be lower. And then of course it's got inscriptions.
You now have the 3 inscriptions.
Right.
Yeah. The one thing we didn't really cover in the general of Anthem communication was components,
which is new, right.
Which is kind of new to explain. So again, this comes back to that notion that we've separated vanity and power, or what we're calling personalization and customization. And so in personalization, you pick the helmet you want to wear and the chest and the legs and the arms, for example. but there are no stats associated to it. And so players have been asking, well, but isn't that kind of annoying? Because I like that I have stats there. And so what we've done instead is have a series of components that bring that back. So not only do they add stats to your suits, but they add other abilities. But
so let me dive into these two on this one. There's many, many more that you can get. Components' primary purpose is to allow you to tailor and customize the playstyle that you want. So
what's an example then?
So an example of this is right here.
Perfect.
All blast damage, which means explosions. There are things that aren't explosive that do blast damage. So we're very specific here. Is increased. Now, obviously, percentage, 0% isn't good. We have a bug in there. But if I wanted to focus on doing explosives, I would maybe this is an item I would choose. These also have up to 2 inscriptions on them.
Okay.
So the difference between this explosives expert and another one would be the inscriptions, could be the rarity and the power level of it. I need more ammo in my. I've got an autocannon. I want more ammo.
Right.
You take the thing that gives you either more ammo for all your weapons, or there's a specific Colossus one that gives you more autocannon ammo, or more ammo for all of your weapons.
One question we get asked a lot is, hey, flight's cool, I love flying, will I be able to extend my flight time?
Oh, yeah.
Is this where you do that?
So you can do this in a couple ways. You can do it here. So you get an inscription that gives you more thruster lifetime.
Right.
Or you get that, and if you roll really well, you get it also as your inscriptions. So your inscriptions give you more thruster. So I can fly for a much longer time or hover for a much longer time if I choose to specialize in that.
Yeah. Hey, well, what if I just want to enjoy playing the game and equip stuff versus being a min-maxer? Does this cater to both groups?
Yeah. So it's again, components are meant to allow you to very easily customize your play, and it is not very complicated. It can get complicated, but it's to what degree you want to participate in that. If I feel like I want more ammo, I'm going to equip the one that gives me more ammo.
On. Yeah.
If I happen to be using an assault rifle because that was the latest drop that I got, and you have the component for assault rifle damage or assault rifle ammo, equip it. Yeah. So they're pretty self-explanatory.
On the other end, it's like, okay, if I have a specific group I want to play with a specific comp and I need to do things, I could get really deep in min-max.
The second one, the overclock regulator, the second one you see here, and it has some obvious benefits to the. I both have my firewall mortar. I have electricity gear pieces that I can do as a Colossus. So that's a pretty good item.
Right.
But when I combine that with other things that boost elemental damage or that do elemental damage, then I begin to have some synergy with additional items.
Got it.
So rarities beyond epic are Masterwork and Legendary. So a Masterwork item is a higher rarity, higher power level than an epic, and also each one comes with a Masterwork property.
Okay.
Some special thing that it does over and beyond what its normal things are. So we looked at we can look at the assault, like we look at our assault launcher. You can get a high explosive missile. I think it's called a blast missile in the game at any rarity. But when you get the Masterwork version, it comes with a new orange text.
Right.
So this is an upgraded version of that when you defeat an enemy, an explosion happens, an electric explosion happens.
Okay. So you've got the special property. I then see you've got the 4 inscriptions.
Got 4 inscriptions.
So if I was to get another Argo's mace, the special property would be the same.
Right.
And then the 4 inscriptions will be different.
Yeah,
so
right.
You might want to get multiple Argo's maces to get the perfect combination of inscriptions.
Depending on how
chasing that.
deep you want to go, you'll make or collect as many as you can until you get like Javelin blast damage. That's good for me because this does blast damage.
You want to make it blast damage.
I want thruster life, so you'll see. All of this leads to me getting a full build together.
And then above Masterworks is Legendaries, which we don't have examples here today, but do you want to explain?
Yeah, so take a Masterwork item and give it a level upgrade. Same properties, but probably a deeper inscription pool, different inscriptions it can pull from, and more power. So the same property.
It's like kind of the same but more powerful version. It's like the ultimate chase for the people who will play the game the most and do the hardest content and are the most dedicated. Okay.
It's the big chase item in there. So each item that you have has a power. You see the power level. Those values added together form your gear score. We use that to say this content is appropriate for someone of your level.
Right. And so you can see in the top right, ours says Legendary Ranger. I think that's a bug. It probably should say Masterwork Ranger because we're in Masterwork. But then, so what, the sum of that
all of my parts
is 433.
Is 433. So when if I were to take some of these items off, you would see that bar go down, and then suddenly I'm now an Epic Ranger.
Yeah, and as you cross thresholds, you'll go through the rarities. Is inventory space limited? So yes, there is a limit because there has to be, because that's how servers work. It's pretty large though, and so the idea is that you have plenty of space to keep enough of these things that you need for your different loadouts. But you will have to maintain it a little bit. Like in most games, you fill up and you realize that half of it is junk, and
you keep it for a rainy day
and salvage it. Which salvaging in our game is really important because it gives you crafting materials. So you'll want to break down the things you're not using or you don't need anymore, and use them to craft stuff. So yes, there is a cap. It's meant to be big enough that you can freely do all this stuff, but there's a limit at some point. Like
our engineers start complaining when it gets too much.
Will blueprints scale with you when
you unlock them? So basically, I think the question is, if I get a blueprint at level 5, let's say it. Let's say something crazy happened and I'm level 20 and I get a Masterwork blueprint and I create that. You would then create a level 20 version of that.
Right.
And then if you were level 30, so it's basically whatever level you are, you'll
so
craft
create
it at
the
that.
same one.
You don't need a new recipe.
31.
Yeah, you don't need a new recipe. There's not level
So the recipe, it gets created for the current level when you craft it.
Yes, right.
Is there a way to re-roll inscriptions?
The method for re-rolling inscriptions is to recraft the item.
Okay, so if you're crafting an item, you craft lots of it and to get the inscriptions you want. If you just got an item, the answer is to go out and get the item again.
Right.
So you can't re-roll except for crafting. Okay.
Right.
You've created a build that excels at being a ranger who hovers, and by using gear, you can do lots of bonus damage and hover longer and reduce cooldowns and keep doing lots of gear.
Right. So I hover, I do explosive damage.
Yep.
I do ultimates as much as possible. That's the 3 key pieces.
Right. So let's explain how that works.
Okay. So we'll start with the components, which are, for this build, the most important thing. Now, I want to be super clear here. I'm focused on explosions, which are coming from gear.
Right.
But the other build that I was
playing with
was an impact build, which would have been focused on weapons. And then I have gear that actually does impact damage as well. So it's the opposite of an AE.
So I guess the point there is there are lots of different builds you can make. And I think the players will come up with many that we never even thought of.
I hope so.
This is just one example to show kind of the depth and the kind of choices you'll have as you're doing this yourselves.
Okay, so Airborne Advantage is a Ranger-only component. While I'm hovering, my gear recharge rate is increased by half. Huge.
So like a 10-second thing
becomes 5 seconds.
5 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I can do my gear more often. It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. Okay. Good.
So on this one, it's a little confusing. When I defeat an enemy with the left bumper, with my right bumper, my left bumper gets more damage.
Okay. So
in my case, it happens to be a high explosive blast missile and a grenade, both of which do explosive damage.
Right. So you defeat an enemy with the missile, then when you throw your grenades, you're doing 50% extra damage.
Yes.
Okay. That's
if I time it, it requires some timing, so there's some skill involved here.
Right. Absolutely.
Which is good. If I get multi-kills, which happens a lot with a grenade that does a lot of damage, my shields are restored.
Right. So if you defeat an enemy with your missile, then you throw your grenade at 3 people, it's doing double damage. If it kills them, recharge shields.
Right.
So if I'm in the thick of things, I could stay in longer if I'm executing my rotation properly. Okay.
So tip of the spear, I want to use my ultimate a lot because I'll show you why, and I'll show you how I'm doing that later. But when I use my ultimate, it increases my gear damage by 50%. So that stacks with the other one.
Okay.
So I'll more likely be able to trigger them.
Yep.
And for 5 seconds. And then I pulled in a couple things that were really good, epic versions of my standard pieces, because I want my assault launcher to do more damage, and that 5% is actually higher than that. It's a bug with the value. And I want to throw out as many grenades as I can.
Clearly, we're trending that way.
Yes, I got to trend. So I want the recharge rate as low as possible.
And so I think you can really see the difference between the Masterwork items are really interesting.
Yes.
And then the lower rarities are impactful to your playstyle, but it requires less thought into how you'd piece them together.
Right. So this Grenadier inscription, I could get that level 5, 6.
Right.
It will obviously not
have
be an epic version of it,
and it wouldn't have the inscriptions.
Right.
Okay.
So it builds up in layers. The players don't have to gulp it all down at the same time.
So that's components, but that's not the end of the build, right? There are a few extra pieces that are important.
So let's look at this guy. So this is my my blast missile. Electric explosion when I defeat an enemy. So I want to do more explosive damage as much as I can. This allows me to do that.
Because you also had, when you defeat an enemy, your grenades get more damage, but also when you defeat an enemy, it does bonus damage as well.
Yeah.
So you're like defeating an enemy, explosion damage, and bonus grenade damage.
Yeah, so I want to do as much damage as possible.
So it starts all stacking up into, exactly. Okay.
Now, I've also got thruster life here, because I want to hover as much as I can. And I've got javelin blast damage.
When we get to the weapon, especially.
Okay, so, let's look at the grenade.
Grenade first, okay.
So this is on a small multi-kill. I add, that number is bugged. Don't worry, it's not 1,000. But 10%.
It could be 1,000.
I mean, it could be if we were crazy, but yes.
Okay. That's fine.
So that's 10%, but you're going to get this. You're going to get this a lot. This is so I've got 2 items here. We talked earlier about combos.
Yep.
So normally a weapon doesn't apply any status effects. This one, that number should be 10, but if I hit somebody 10 times, it will light them on fire.
Right.
Which will then prime them for a combo.
Detonators and a combos.
Right.
Okay. I hover. I'm getting reduced gear cooldowns by half.
Yes.
And weak point damage. I defeat an enemy with my missile.
Right.
It does bonus explosion damage, and it makes my grenades do 50% more damage for 3 seconds. If I use my grenade and get a 2-person multi-kill, it'll regenerate my shields. If I get a 3-person multi-kill, it will fill my ultimate meter faster.
You got those numbers reversed, but yes.
But yeah, okay. If my ultimate's filled up, I use my ultimate, that increases all of my gear by, I can't remember the number now, it was 50% or something.
Yep.
Which at that point, my gear cooldowns are so low, they're probably refreshed, and I'm doing it all over again.
It's ludicrous. But so it sounds ludicrous and unbalanced, but if you want to push into, though you're required to have that power to push that content where you're getting better loot.
So you'll need this stuff if you want to be playing the top-end content.
Right.
Okay, and so on that, at launch, there'll be 3 difficulties as you play through the crit path and also get towards max level.
Right.
We've showed them, I think, it's Lancer, Freelancer, Master. And then there'll be 3 more difficulties available at launch once you unlock them that are Grandmaster 1, 2, and 3.
Right.
And that's where I think this kind of stuff comes into play, but also by doing that harder content, you get a higher chance of getting these more rare items like Masterworks and things like that.
Right.
Let's say there is a legendary gun called the Exploder. Is there going to be only one version of that gun with fixed stats, or can we find an infinite version of the same gun with better rolls on the stats so that we don't end up with the same build?
As we said, if the Exploder is a Masterwork
that explodes, let's say.
That its orange property, the orange property that it has, will always be the same on the Exploder.
Right.
But the infusions on it will be different.
Right.
So because there's a wide variety of builds, multiple builds could use the Exploder. And depending on what build I use the Exploder in, I may want different stats. So it's perfect for me if it's got thruster on it, so that I can hover more.
Right.
But if I'm not hover based, if I'm melee based, then I don't care about it. So we've talked about grenade, refresh. Right. So let me show you.
You want to explain how it works?
I want to see
idea.
it.
Great idea.
So I think it's about 12 seconds. So you see the little bar raise. Now watch what happens when I hover.
Yeah, it's half.
Much faster, like it's half.
Ridiculous. And you can see, they're the buffs on the left, is that right?
Yes. Yep. So yeah, let me do that again.
I can't remember which one was which, but.
So Raptor's Relief is the cooldown reduction, and Raptor Sense is my weak point
damage, yeah.
So you can see, and you see the electric explosion there that happened.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do.
So you've got to defeat an enemy with your missile launcher.
So I'm going to do that.
Oh, you didn't.
Didn't kill him. It's okay. I do a bunch of damage with that grenade, so it's cool, and it comes back fast.
Yeah, you better get on the ground. Okay. So you defeated him. You got Victor's boost, I guess, which is grenade does extra damage, and then you got the grenade kill. Right. If that was a multi-kill, if it was 3, you get your shield back, and if it was 2, we'd see our ultimate meter
go up,
dip up. And I think one of the bugs here is you have a bunch of plus thruster, and I think it's not quite working.
What's not working, nor is the ultimate regeneration that I have.
Oh,
just base regeneration isn't working either.
Yeah, so you'd be able to hover longer and probably get your ultimate even faster than what we're seeing here.
Yeah, the grenades are really powerful, but slow, and we balance them that way.
Darren's actually doing something maybe subtle here, but he's purposely playing around the water. So as he's overheating, he's coming back and cooling himself faster by playing through the water.
Right.
So there's a lot of there's some environmental things you can do here to help. Oh, that might be it. Nice.
Okay. Oh,
so your ultimate's full. So if you also now, you could get your ultimate going.
Yep.
Awesome. All right, I'll answer some questions. Do bosses drop unique loot? Like if I did a stronghold and killed one of those giant gorilla-looking things, could I get, I don't know, a crazy quad-barreled shotgun? By playing the game, there are loot tables, and the harder the content you play gives you higher chances of rarity amongst the loot tables. And those loot tables are kind of, if you're playing a ranger, you're more likely to get more ranger gear, or mostly ranger gear. Separately to that, we have a challenge system. So you can think of it as what some other games kind of use achievements as but there might be a challenge to be like, hey, go kill the giant gorilla thing 10 times, and on the 10th time you get a specific reward. And so we're trying to work out exactly how we'll kind of mix those challenges into the rest of the game. But the primary thing will be there are loot tables, and then between crafting and challenges, there'll be some outs to chase certain things. Well, actually, you can just keep playing around for a bit. I'll answer a few more questions, and then we'll start to wrap it up. So support ability got asked as a question.
Oh yeah.
We didn't show it, which actually for what you're doing here would be super useful.
Would have been super useful.
Don't you have Bulwark on?
Oh, do I? Okay, you're right. So this puts a shield around me, so that the projectiles can't get in. But I can pop it in the air. If I time it incorrectly, I can't.
If you didn't get set on fire
all
from
the time,
raptors and shot out of the sky.
It would have been much more dramatic.
But see, now you're hovering though to get it back faster so we can show it off, which is kind of cool.
So they have a long cooldown, but it's shortened when I'm hovering.
Oh, you got 2 Ursics?
Yeah, no, I'm not going to be able to. I should run away, I know.
Do inscriptions stack? I assume this means if I had 2 plus 5% flight times, would they work together?
They do. Yep, for sure.
They sure do. A question was, will higher level gear have wildly impactful abilities? I think that was an older question before we started showing all this, so the answer is yes.
The answer is yes.
As you can see,
right.
Pretty impactful stuff. You can work in kind of your own rotations, if you will, or play styles based on putting them together.
Right.
You're like, this build is really about having to defeat a lot of enemies pretty quickly. That's where you get the most value. So then when you fight like an Ursix, this isn't the best build to go and fight single target, high hit point, high damage.
I can't get those
and that's the trade-off, right? Yep. Now you could have made a different build that was balanced for that.
And my impact build would have been great.
Focused. Yeah, your impact build would have been perfect for it. It's all about single target damage with weapons. So there's going to be a lot of trade-offs here. And then if you think you're just one player, ideally you have a squad of you and 3 of your best friends, and you're trying to work out the builds that support the whole group, all 4 of you together.
Right.
So you might make a mixture of some people are there to take out the trash, so to speak, the easier to kill creatures, and other people are there to deal with the kind of priority target things, either the apex creatures like the Ursix, or even like a Scar Heavy, things that are harder to defeat. How do enemies scale? Because we've talked about friends of any level can play together. So how would it work?
So the key to making that work is that enemies scale to your pilot level.
Right.
There are things that scale slightly differently, but the creatures.
Yeah. So the biggest boost you can get. Oh man, he's just wants. The biggest boost you can get is increasing your rarity. If Darren's level 20 and I'm level 10, we can play together because we'll do, without getting into it, relative damage to the creatures, and they'll do relative damage to us, so we can play together. But when Darren has a build like this with all these synergies, he will be more powerful than I will, or he will be able to defeat things faster because he has all these extra synergies and he has a breadth of things available to him. But we can still play together and have a lot of fun. Are there builds that can improve your melee?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Will there be swords or other things? So right now the way it works is each Javelin has its own melee ability. So the Ranger has the shock mace, it just has the shock mace, there are no other things. We like the idea of maybe somewhere down in the future, like we could do some more stuff, but at launch everyone kind of has their one thing.
Right.
And that will scale with pilot level and things like that. What about raids and endgame content? So that's a much longer answer. So a lot of the kind of core loop to the game as you get through the crit path and get towards the endgame content is around taking on more challenging and more challenging content at those higher difficulties to get more rewards.
Right.
Then the question says, but hey, like I would like aspirational content. Like it's important to have aspirational content. And so we have some things coming that we're not quite ready to talk about. But as we get into the new year, we'll give some more detail on that. But certainly at launch, there's a lot of content and a lot of difficulty levels and a lot of ways to challenge yourself with you and your friends to try to get these rewards, find out what these amazing builds are, find the builds that are right for you, find the build that's right for you and your group, find the build that's right for you and your group across the 4 Javelins, across multiple loadouts. You know, there's really a lot of stuff to chase there. And a lot of amazing content to play to do it. But we'll talk about some of that other stuff a bit later. When can we see the Interceptor point of view? So, for those paying attention, a certain person promised we would show the Interceptor perspective next stream. Yeah, but what happened is last stream we had a couple of technical problems and we didn't get to show it. And then we promised we would show loot. But showing loot on the Interceptor that you'd never seen wasn't really going to make sense. So we wanted to show the Ranger so you could compare it to the Ranger we've showed before. Sure. So our hope is that next time we do a gameplay stream, note I said gameplay stream, that we will show the Interceptor's perspective. And so I realize I promised this thing. It's accidental promise breaking, not non-intentional.
I would have shown it for him.
But thanks, Darren. But we will show it. We'll show it next stream. Next stream that we show gameplay. How many caveats do I need here? I need a lawyer present. But yes, we want to show off. Like, we love the Interceptor too. Like, we're really excited. I mean, it was the last Javelin that we built as a team, and it's been shown the least, and it's amazing. So we want to show it off as well. At level 1, you have like a weapon and 2 gear pieces. And then at level 4, you get like the second weapon. And at level, I don't remember, 12 or 6, you get the 3rd gear piece, or however it works. And so all that unlocks on your journey to max pilot level. Thank you to our amazing production team who set this up today. I don't know if you guys saw any of the photos we posted, but we really did a double upgrade to our streaming setup this time around. It's been amazing. It's fancy. We have microphones and all this cool stuff. The team actually was here super late last night, so thank you all so much. Obviously, thank you to the amazing dev team who built all this stuff. We get to represent them. We'll be announcing our next stream here pretty shortly to let you give you all a heads up of what we'll stream next. If you want to find out that information, you can follow us on Twitter at @AnthemGame. You can follow me at @BenErvo, because I like to go rogue and announce things sometimes also. Well, Darren, thank you so much for coming on. It was awesome having your expertise to kind of talk through this with everyone. So thanks for joining us. Thanks everyone for tuning in. It's been a really fun stream, and we will see you all next time.